Welcome everyone to this new episode of the Privacy Rules Privacy Espresso series. Today with a series in the series, meaning that we are at the third episode on how to build a unified compliance strategy within NIS2, CRA, DORA and the GDPR. So a look into the several frameworks that we are having in the EU. And today with me I have Michaela Holíková from Rowan Legal, which is our law firm for Czech Republic. Michaela is an expert in the field, and today we're going to speak together with her on DORA. As I always say, privacy espressos are pretty short, so we normally delve into the details of our topic as soon as possible. So the first question, as I was saying, would be, can we really think of DORA as a sister of NIS2?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I actually really like it because if we see the numbers of these two documents, they are more or less the same, and DORA is a little bit older. So I like the idea of thinking about them as a sisters. And maybe as we will go through our espresso, we will see that there are also some relationships like with the sisters. Somewhere it goes very well together and somewhere it's more like fighting.
Like every sister, they used to fight and be very well connected together.
Yes, exactly. I would say what's important to say about DORA in general is that it goes to banking. And banking has been the most attacked sector in terms of the cyber attacks. I would say NIS2, the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity, just released the first threat landscape report, which brings insights into the cyber threats targeting the European financial sector. And European banks were the most frequently affected at the rate 64%. So they are really the major part or who is attacked in the European Union. So it's also the reason for DORA goes much further than the requirements of the NIS2 directive, because NIS2 directive is still a directive. It's undeniable the European security baseline. But DORA brings the topic of digital and operational resilience for the financial sector. So it means that the financial subjects has to be really prepared for the situation that they are actively attacked by some malicious actor.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Michaela. And as you were saying, one of the key differences, of course, the fact that one is a directive and DORA is a regulation. So there is, more power, let's say, into the second one. But which are the main differences in your view between those two frameworks?
I would stay at the legal effect, because I think that the fact that DORA is a regulation also actually somehow mirrors the interest or high interest in the European Union in unifying the rules for this area. Because NIS2, there is still some space for the member states to adjust the implementation act, to adjust the security requirements. There are states that have two different levels for different regulated services. So there is much more creativity. But in DORA, we know what should be done in the financial sector. And then there are also the implementing regulations, like the regulatory technical standards and the implementation technical standards. So I would say everything is covered to the lowest detail.
And we were mentioning also about a stricter approach, in particular for what concerns supply chains, which is something that we were also hearing about last week when we were speaking about NIS2 with Bernd. So what is the biggest challenge in the supply chain management according to DORA instead of NIS this time?
Yeah. I'm thinking I will start probably with one thing that I see a lot in practice. And this is usually when I'm like advocating for my client and I'm on the side to negotiate the new contract with the IT suppliers. They are like, I'm not subject of DORA. Sorry, it doesn't apply to me. And then I'm like, yeah, but you are, there is this article which clearly says it is ICT suppliers, or let's say in DORA terminology, these are ICT service providers. So this is kind of like intro to that. What is important to remember is that the DORA regulates also the ICT service providers. And this is also something what we have to, in terms of DORA, a little bit differentiate from the regulation of banking outsourcing, because this is something what is already living with us, or let's say with the banks, and partially then also with the insurances. And this is broader. I would say the regulation of outsourcing goes to any activity which could entity, the bank, or provide by themselves. But if we see DORA, DORA really targets the ICT suppliers. It really should prevent the cyber threats or cyber attacks or some kind of events like that. And I would say why I mentioned the outsourcing, there was the EBA guidelines on outsourcing, and I can really see that the subjects that already did their work with the EBA guidelines, they are very well prepared, and also their suppliers already know that there are certain set of requirements that have to be mirrored in the contracts, because they already did some kind of exercises on that. On the other hand, DORA definitely broadens the scope of the ICT providers, which are regulated by that. If we look more to the side of the strategy or of the internal management, the risk management connected to the ICT service providers has to be inherent part of the financial entity's overall risk management. So again, this is something what is partially already started in outsourcing regulation, but DORA actually provides a unifying umbrella that ICT risks are inherent part of overall enterprise risk, like the operational risk and everything what's important for banks or financial sector. So let's say the situation with the suppliers, somewhere it's super easy because the contracts are already aligned. Somewhere it's more like to what we see with the NIS2. We are somehow starting to build the management around the suppliers within the company, and we are also teaching a lot the suppliers about what are the new requirements and what has to be actually in the contract and what has to be done. So yeah, so what I would say, like in general, I believe that the most challenging part, right, really from the practice is actually the really concluding contracts with the ICT suppliers. But I don't want to diminish somehow also the practice or all the exercises that has to be done on the side of financial subjects. And of course, actually what I did, I spoke a lot about banks, but DORA affects so much more subjects than just credit institutions. And for majority of them, the DORA also like brings the new requirements, all the crypto companies and all of that. This is something what wasn't or hasn't been regulated so far. And there are also some like middle regulation. It's like nothing crypto, DORA. So it's like out of the blue. A big change, I would say, in the philosophy and processes in the firm, at the company, which is required.
And in your view, which are the key difficulties for the suppliers? Which are the most relevant one?
Yeah. I would say it's usually the collaboration when there is a cybersecurity incident on the bank side. Also, it's a kind of like the notification to the bank or different DORA subject in case there is an incident on their side, because it somehow assumes that also the ICT service suppliers has their own process for resolving the cybersecurity incidents on their side. And then definitely it's also the different scenarios or for the termination of the contract, and then like all the as I said, the scenarios that are connected to the termination. So really to have an exit strategy and really like detailed process what will be done, because so far I would say exit strategy was seen some kind of document that's internally provided by the bank. It's part of the overall security posture, but now in the contracts really has to be precise process defined what will be done if. So this is something what is, I would say, also objectively or hard to judge at, for example, at the beginning of the cooperation.
Yeah, and it's clear that it's a very complex framework to deal with, and to add an additional layer of complexity. My understanding is that there are some subjects that fall under both NIS2 and DORA. So, in your experience, under the practical side, what should they do to
Yeah.
work that out?
Yeah, that's true. This is the other part of the sisters' relationship, maybe. But on the other hand, if we will read these documents, these two documents carefully, we will find the clues how to deal with that situation. So we know that DORA contains a list of mandatory subjects, like types of subjects, and then we have the regulated services that are contained in the NIS2. And in NIS2, in the recitals, there is already like a path how to view the DORA in this context. So it says that DORA should be considered as a sector-specific union legal act in relation to NIS2 with regard to financial entities. So it has some kind of prime in that. So member states should not apply the provisions on cybersecurity risk management, reporting obligation, supervision and enforcement according to NIS2 to the financial entities that are covered by DORA. I would say, in other words, actually, it means that entities providing a regulated service under the NIS2, what it's important to say, maybe these are not all the entities that are DORA relevant. Yeah, these are the credit institutions and some more. This can be different, a member state from the member state, because NIS2 is the directive. Only these subjects must meet the legal requirements that are required by this NIS2 Implementing Act. For example, like registration of the regulated service at the National Cybersecurity Agency or whatever office this is. But then the security measures, these should be implemented according to DORA. So there is some kind of cross. Okay, no security measures according to Article 21 NIS2, but we are going to DORA security measures. Another thing which is then like specific is definitely the supervision, because supervision of the DORA relevant subject is carried out accordance with the DORA, or to be more precise, with the Local Adaptation Act that will go hand in hand with the administrative processes in the given member states.
That was very, very interesting. And, the more I move on, the more I realize that really you need to know very well both the frameworks in order to move through them. So it would be really difficult for anyone that is not used to work on a daily basis with them to move. So I really understand why, companies are in need of experts like you to get your support in those type of situation. You were also speaking or we were also speaking about critical ICT service providers, again, in connection to DORA. Is any supplier falling within the scope of this concept, or is something different?
Let's start differently. I would say right now we don't have any critical ICT service supplier in place, because these will be like designed by the Joint Commission of European Supervisory Authorities, which have their responsibilities in the banking sector. So, and this designation will be based on some kind of systemic impact on the financial sector in the event that the ICT provider would face a large-scale operational failure to provide its services, some kind of like systemic importance for the financial entities, or the degree of substitutability hard word, of the provider. And actually, this will be designed based on the data. And these data will be given to the European supervisory authorities. So, because they are actually originating in the Register of Information, which is some kind of different requirement that every financial subject related to DORA has to maintain. So then, according to these data, we will know who will be designed as a critical ICT service provider. But I would say we can already assume who, or at least which type of ICT service providers will be critical.
Okay, very interesting and again amazing to hear how someone can move across all those differences and similarities. We are running out of our time, so I would like to thank you very much for being with us and for clarifying a bit on how we should move across DORA and NIS2 in particular. Michaela, thanks a lot to you again. Thanks to our listeners for being with us, and looking forward to the next Espresso next week. Bye, everyone.